A must-own gold stock, K92 Mining, trading on the TSX Venture under KNT. Head of exploration is the man responsible for the largest gold discovery in history. Gold production will commence in the matter of weeks for this new company, headed up by an all-star management team. Their core project and mine was purchased by Barrick Gold at the height of the bull market in 2006 for $142 million. At the depths of the bear market, this management team swooped in and bought this project for $2 million last year. To learn more about this soon-to-be mid-tier gold producer with a cash cost estimated at a low $600 per ounce, visit futuremoneytrends.com/gold-IPO. Greetings and thank you for joining us at futuremoneytrends.com. I have a very special guest. She's been very generous with her time with us prior to this interview, and I'm glad to have her back on the show. Very smart lady. Law degree from Yale. She worked for the World Bank for, just over 20 years. But unlike what a lot of the people you see on CNBC or Fox Business or anybody really that's part of the tentacles of the oligarchs, she was on the inside, and what she has to say is honestly jaw-dropping when it comes to the economy, when it comes to who's really pulling the strings. And I think her resume alone is enough reason for everybody to take her very, very seriously. Our guest today is Karen Hudes. Karen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Daniel. Glad to be back with you. This is what, the fifth time?
I believe so. And before we even begin, if somebody wants to go to your website, I just want to make sure we have the right domain up. It's KarenHudes.net, and we'll have the correct spelling and everything for everybody.
It's actually KAHUDES.net.
Yes. Okay, so we will make sure we have the domain for everybody. She does have a lot of information, so certainly worth your time. Well, Karen, you sent me a link yesterday. I read through it, and I've got to say I was a little disappointed to read it, just because I as someone who more identifies with like a libertarian or an anarchist type political background, I wasn't a fan of Trump because of Trump's ideology. I was a fan of Trump because it appeared that it was kind of one of those things: the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And Trump, at least in my opinion, was very anti-establishment. However, that's not your feelings and not what your findings are. What are your thoughts that you can share with us about Donald Trump and his run for presidency?
It's all about the gold, because we are on the edge of permanent gold backwardation. That's a technical term used by the gold traders. It means that paper fails, and when paper fails in a big way, then you don't have any money to buy anything in the stores. And this is a trick that some people call it the one bank. I call it the network of global corporate control, because that's what three Swiss mathematicians call it. This is a huge corrupt force that's been with us for a very long time, and Trump is just simply an agent of that outfit, and he is not accepting the gold that belongs to the United States. He's trying to surrender the United States and starve everybody, and that's not a good guy.
Now, Trump recently took gold as payment, and I don't think has he said anything publicly negative about gold?
What it is I asked him to include in his campaign the fact that the United States has the gold, and we simply have to accept it, which we actually already did. And when you're silent on that, that's damning. There's no way to get around that. And how do I know he knows it? Because his lawyer put it on his desk.
Yeah, that is shocking. Just let everybody know I have the advantage of being able to see the actual reply from the Trump attorney, who literally said, "I have printed it out and placed the email on Mr. Trump's desk." On the other side is Hillary Clinton. I mean, I don't even know if voting matters really, but I mean, I probably actually don't think it really does. But What about Hillary Clinton? I mean, I don't think she's going to be any better. And is it possible that Trump is just being ignorant of the issue?
No, it's not. And actually, there isn't going to be any voting. And Hillary Clinton is just as complicit, if not more so, than Trump. And the reason why I can tell you that there is not going to be any voting is because we are now in something called interregnum. That's a lawyer's word for there's nobody home. And there is nobody home because the United States is actually under martial law. We have been under martial law since 1861. And the person who's supposedly in charge is General Dunford. And we told General Dunford that he was not allowed to have a secret martial law rule and that the United States was in limbo. And when I say we, I'm talking about the 188 ministers of finance who have a say over the world's monetary gold reserves. They were put into a trust at the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. And a lot of people hold their nose when they talk about the Bretton Woods institutions because this one bank has hijacked or tried to hijack the Bretton Woods institutions. And they've been doing just about the same kinds of horrible things that they've been doing when they captured the U.S. government, when they captured just about all the governments. But things are now changing in a very big way, and we've been talking about this for a long time. I went back and listened to part of what we were talking about back in February, and I was saying that one of the ways you can tell whether this one bank is losing and losing its control is keep an eye on Germany. Because according to a very accurate political science modeling tool that came to us from the National War College, and it's 90 to 95% accurate, it predicts that Germany is going to pull out of the Atlantic Alliance and it's going to move to become an ally of the BRICS. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And sure enough, Germany has joined the BRICS Bank. And Germany is making overtures, direct overtures to Russia, and so is Japan, as a matter of fact. So this model is very, very accurate, and it has actually been predicting that the United States was going to throw off this corruption. And in the time that we've been talking, a lot of people have been really following this very, very closely. And one of the things that I put up a long time ago was an interview with the biggest business website in Germany, where they were asking me why a helicopter had buzzed the U.S. consulate. So we now are really at a turning point, which is to say either we continue to have a country or we go down the tubes as the Federal Reserve note crashes. And I've been getting an awful lot of help because my position now is I'm supposed to be something called the Overseer Mandate Trustee. That's a lot of words, but what it actually means is that I'm the secretariat for the 188 ministers of finance. And I've been working with these guys since the get-go. I was brought into the World Bank by Ibrahim Shihada, who had been the general counsel of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. And I have just stayed in touch with all of these people. And what to me is very heartwarming is the amount of information, really accurate, good information that I'm given. I'm also given a lot of lousy information, but after a while you learn to try to sift through it. And people have seen me make big mistakes and then admit that I've made the mistakes and try to regain whatever credibility I can. And at this point now, one of the really telling things that I got was there's a YouTube video by, I think he's part French. He's got an English grandfather. His name is, goodness, I block on interviews, not because I'm bad with names, I do that as well, but also because we've been talking about advanced military technology that's out there. And I get hammered during these interviews. So it takes me a while sometimes to retrieve words.
No,
I just, yeah.
no worries. Before you go on, but you did say something at the beginning of this answer that that without a doubt the audience would kill me if I didn't ask a follow-up. You said there wouldn't be any voting this year.
I don't think there will be. I think that we're going to be in something called Article 5 Constitutional Convention, because we were supposed to be in that a long, long time ago. We're not actually in our Constitution of 1789 is not in force in effect. It was put out of commission back in 1871 when the Revolutionary War debts came due. And now we have to put it back into place. And if people want to amend it, that's fine. But first we have to put it back in effect. And the only way to do that is through this Article 5 convention. So that's the reason. I don't think you can have legal elections when you don't have a constitution in effect, when you've got a secret martial law regime. And at the moment, that regime has now actually been set aside. We're in interregnum. So we have already told General Dunford that he is not allowed to rule the United States. So we are now in limbo, waiting to get our Constitution of 1789 back in effect.
So are you saying the votes won't matter, or there actually won't be anybody going to the polls in November because the election will be essentially canceled and this will be public and known to all?
At the moment, we are in limbo, and I can't say how many people are going to catch on that we're in limbo. So it may be that it's going to have to be invalidated.
Interesting.
Things are moving very quickly. But I did, in the meantime, remember the name of the man who did this video. His name is Sean Hross, Hross. And what's very interesting about this is he's talking about who the real Nazis are. It's in Switzerland. It's people that came back from the Crusades. They're called Templars. And what is now going on is that the Russians, don't forget, the Russians lost 25 million people in World War II. So there is a very influential Major General Konstantin Petrov. And Mr. Hross, if you look at his video, you see that the Russians know very well who the real enemy is. And so the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So the United States, minus the Federal Reserve, is now allies with Russia. And this is actually what this power transition model had predicted. So the United States is throwing off this secret, what I don't know what you want to call it. Many people understand now what's going on. But you also have this network with the alternative media trying to confuse people. So that people think that General Dunford is actually a white knight, that he isn't really serving the interests of this network of global corporate control. There's a lot of confusion. And so if you want to think about whether we're going to have elections or not, it depends on how many people figure out what's really going on, how many of the people who actually know what's going on manage to get through to the ones that are clueless. And one of the reasons why I think that more and more people are going to find out what's going on is because if you look at very interesting surveys that are coming to light, one of the surveys is how many people really believe the mainstream media. It's only 6%. Another very interesting survey that's now become very well known was by Gillens and Page. They showed that the U.S. Congress is totally ignoring public opinion. They're just simply marching to the tune of this network of global corporate control. So I think as people recognize the depth of this illusion and corruption, it's just not sustainable. And one of the other recent developments that tells me that we're making very rapid progress is what happened with the vote of the UK citizens to leave the European Union, the Brexit. Why do I think that's so significant? It's because the votes were actually honestly counted. Because you've had other votes which weren't honestly counted, like what happened in Scotland, There have been so many of the other votes which weren't accurately counted. And getting back to the elections in the United States, we all know that our elections are not honestly counted either. So when you've got elites that are no longer doing the bidding of this network of global corporate control, and the other elites are seeing this, then there's something different going on. And last week, I had a very interesting discussion in the very middle of the meeting of the National Governors Association. So when you're talking about this election with Pence, who is Pence? He's a governor. And the governors they're not doing their job as governors. They're doing their job as agents of the network of global corporate control. They're not telling citizens that when citizens pay off their mortgages, they don't get real title. The governors are giving the real title to all of the property to these banks without telling their people. So the governors are in a very ticklish place because many people know just how complicit they are.
Now, do you think that most of them are just ignorant? I mean, we've talked about this in previous interviews. Does Obama know what's going on? Does Bernanke fully understand? I mean, most of these governors, I've met a few politicians over my life, and they don't seem like they're that bright.
I've been writing to them all for many, many years, so yes, they know.
Karen, you mentioned Brexit, so I do want to touch on the economy. Deutsche Bank, I mean, they're sitting on like $80 trillion worth of derivatives. When it comes to a major systemic economic collapse, the last time we spoke, you had said one was definitely on the table and a dollar crash could even be imminent. What are your thoughts on what's going on with the global economy and what can people expect for the rest of 2016?
What I'm following is this power transition model and the fact that we're finally gaining some traction. So think about trying to turn the Titanic. You've seen the iceberg and you're in the engine room and you've turned the controls, but it just takes a very long time to pivot. So when you see the Brexit vote, you see that, yes, the Titanic is starting to swerve. And so the question is, are we going to continue to swerve long enough to get the gold that belongs to the United States and the rest of the world out before the paper currencies crash? I'm still optimistic that this can happen because I do think a fair number of people know about this. Some people that are just hearing this interview for the first time are going to be dumbfounded. But the fact that we've been in this game for as long as we have and everything I'm dealing with is documented. There isn't a single thing that I say that I have not been able to document. And so the audience has continued to grow and bring other people on board and show them that this is really going on. So the actual question is, now that a significant number, and it's not clear exactly how many is a significant number, but I do think that we've reached critical mass. So now that a critical mass knows that we're actually in good shape, we actually have gold, we actually have allies. This is the reality. And what the other people that are clueless see is they see what we call fear porn. They see, oh, the sky is falling, there's no way to prevent a collapse. Well, there is no way to prevent a collapse of Federal Reserve notes. The question is, are we going to get dollars from the Treasury first and then replace these with what we call aurum, which is national currencies that are minted out of the gold. And of course, the most important currencies are the local currencies that are issued by the local villages and towns. So if we really have a strong economy based on different currency, are we going to get this different currency in time? Do enough people know that we need to switch currencies? That's the question. And I actually am optimistic, even though it's taking so long. It's because, Daniel, when so many things are going on at the same time, and I'm trying to get through to people, to to let them know that we're really not hurting as far as the people that are telling everybody that, oh, there's no way to prevent a collapse. Well, of course, there is a way to prevent a collapse. The question is, are we going to do this? And the reason why I'm optimistic is because I'm getting so much help. And the part that really impresses me is the help that I get that I can't predict. I go to sleep and I say, oh, how are we going to cope? What's on our plate? How are we going to manage this? And the next day, all of a sudden, there's a plan. And it's not, if people say, well, I've got this planned out weeks in advance. No, I'm the first to admit I do not have any plans whatsoever because I'm not in charge. I'm being helped by a coalition which is now coalescing. So what we're actually doing right now is the minute I get off the phone, I'm going to be filing something with the U.S. Postal Service because we've got a Postmaster General who knows very well that the Federal Reserve is lying and doesn't have the U.S. monetary gold reserves. So everybody just simply has to stay tuned and see whether we manage to pivot away from the iceberg in time. I think we will. This power transition model about the formation of this coalition, the coalition is absolutely there. It's absolutely there. You can see it not only in terms of Germany, you can see it. There are so many different ways to see that this coalition is there. I'm working with so many different people, and I think probably the best way to see whether there is a coalition for the rule of law is to look at the comment section whenever I upload a session on the DC TV series on the Network of Global Corporate Control. Anybody can make a comment, and you can go and read the comments, and you can see what people think and how many people really understand what's going on, because we are living in a matrix. And there are a number of people that understand this very, very well and are prepared to do something about it.
Fascinating discussion with Karen Hudes. Everyone, please check out our website. We'll have the domain up for you. Also, Karen, if people want to watch you, you talked about these videos, this show. Where's the best place for them to go to watch this?
Just go on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. There are 3 videos which YouTube would not upload, and I can give everybody the links for those. One was on secret societies, one was on gold, and one was on the military. But these are uploaded in another place, which I'm happy to give you a link for.